The soul is not universal, which means not like everyone has a different soul, and the soul is what makes everyone unique. And God created the soul in His own image, but the soul is not a part of God, and it's not divine, so it's not like omnipresent or doesn't and stuff like that. So the soul is a very human thing, but it was created in God's image. The mind is part of the soul, but the mind and the soul are. But basically, the mind is the reason why the soul is logical. So it gives us the ability to think, and it's like the way we process things differently. That's because of our mind. What is human nature at birth, and what is the role of heredity and environment play in that? I believe that nature, because of the fall of man, when Adam and Eve ate the apple, because after that we were all born with the sin nature, but God sent Jesus, and because of God's grace, we are able to be good. And there's a celestial battle over our souls, which there's a battle between heaven and hell, like heaven and hell for our souls, and that starts at birth. And so it's our parents' job to equip their children as when they're young to fight this battle as well as they can, and that's where environment comes in. I believe that it's nature and nurture. I think humans are completely Skinner thinks that humans are born. Humans are completely conditioned, as Skinner believes, but Locke believes that we are born a blank slate. And I believe that we are conditioned. I think that, like the common example is, if a baby puts their finger on a burner, they're probably not going to do that on purpose again. And like if we get our hearts broken or something bad happens to us, we're going to do better to guard our heart next time or avoid certain situations that give us anxiety. And so I think in that sense, the environment does kind of teach us and plays that role, but also our personalities play a huge part in that as well. For example, like if you're an introvert, you're going to tend to stay, like, have one-on-one friendships and not go to big parties, and so that will determine where you hang out and who you hang out with and how many people you hang out with. And so I think that's where personality comes in. How does the soul and the physical body interact? The man is made up of body and soul. The body embodies the soul, but the soul is not part of the body. The body is the soul's way of interacting and communicating with the physical world. So it's kind of, the body and the soul are very different, but the soul needs the body to interact with each other. It needs, and I think that's kind of the brain, like the brain and this. I don't believe the brain and the soul are the same thing. I think that, like I said, on Earth, the soul needs the brain in order to communicate and show its feelings. Like when it's hurt, like we cry, or when we're in pain, we scream, and that's kind of how the soul communicates that. And both man and animal have a brain, and this is why I think that the brain and the soul and mind are different, because all animals and humans have a brain, but animals don't have the ability to think, and they don't have the ability to love and carry on relationships in the way that humans do. And so the soul and mind are what makes the human unique, sets the human apart from the animal. What is the nature of human intelligence? Human intelligence, I believe, is the ability to learn, to remember, and to apply this knowledge that we learn to our everyday life, and the ability to learn from our experiences. There are different kinds of intelligence. There is the logical, like the school, like studying. There's bodily intelligence, which is comes with athletics and doing sports or dancing and things like that. And then there's visual. And spiritual, which is kind of relationships, and interpersonal and emotional. Is again just kind of how we interact and they're able to empathize with other people. And musical and verbal. Some of the ways people measure this is through ACT. They measure that the intelligence, like the book smart, through ACT. The athletic ability through physical testing such as time runs, agility, and strength tests. People's visual and spiritual, whether or not you're good at painting or draw or write. And one's ability to relate. They're also measured through one's ability to relate and empathize with others, and that's interpersonal. And then there's the musical, which is how well they play the piano, or like if they have a good pitch, or just like their natural ability to do that. And we all have these kind of intelligences. Some of us have a higher intelligence in different areas, and so we all have this. It just depends on, like, each person excels in certain areas more than others. And then that brings us to the last one, and or mental illness. And so basically mental illness is they either develop these intelligence more slowly than others, than the average person, or some people with mental illness can't acquire these abilities. So like some with the mental illness, like even just people with autism, like it's really hard for them to, like some of them, it's really hard for them to learn to like interact in socially accepted ways, and it's just they're not ever going to be able to do that because they don't have the ability to do that. And that's not all autistic, but just some. That was just an example. What is the function and purpose of psychology? It is to better understand human and be able to become a more effective helper. So basically, now through this like study of psychology, like there are those who were once helpless, like with these mental illnesses, that are now being helped, and they're even learning to help people, like Daisha said, predict and avoid mental illness or psychological problems. Any questions?
What do you think we're actually measuring with an ACT, SAT?
Well, I think that the ACT is, I think again it kind of comes to whether or not you are able to, it's kind of, I think the ACT is basically measuring like what you've learned in the past, and I think that some people are better at remembering like what they've, like everything they learned. Like my uncle like reads a book and he can, like he doesn't ever forget anything. And obviously that's an exaggeration, but I think that it was kind of created to measure what kids are learning in school and what they've learned. And so I think that that's a good way to measure that kind of, like I said, like whether or not you excel in the book smart. But it's not necessarily just because you don't excel in that doesn't mean that you're
right.
Intelligent.
It's not the only kind of intelligence.
Right.
I think you actually said that. I just want to hear you say it again.
Okay.
Somebody else? You smart people in the room. Any questions? Okay. Thank you.